Matrix is proud to be the exclusive sponsor of Shorts with Liz Clark.
Hello. Today on Shorts with Liz, we are joined by Susanne Stirling, Senior Vice President of International Affairs of the California Chamber of Commerce, an old friend of mine. Susanne brings decades of experience supporting California businesses through policy, trade, and global partnerships. We're going to explore how the CalChamber's work intersects with the mission of the Health and Fitness Association, and how together we can support business growth, workforce development, and a healthier community. Welcome, Susanne.
Thank you, Liz. It's an honor to be here. Good to see you again. I have always admired your work in Washington, D.C., and it's very exciting that you're now with the Health and Fitness Association.
Thank you, Susanne. And I've always admired your work in California, which I think is the forefront of so many challenges or opportunities, I guess, if you will. And Susanne, you've been now with the California Chamber heading international policy, which is where we became friends years ago. Can I just start by just asking you your overall take on what is going on with sort of the global trade situation right now?
Absolutely. Yes, I have been doing this for quite a while. And, for all of those years, I've always thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if international trade were a tier one issue? And I think you have to be careful what you wish for, because here we are. It is on the forefront of the news. So, here in California, we are, if we were a separate economy, the fourth largest economy in the world. Trade is incredibly important to us. And we, of course, have diverse geography. And with that goes everything from agriculture to ports to sports, manufacturing, services. And international trade is such an important part of that. We at the California Chamber of Commerce have a long-standing national free trade agenda, which has not changed. And we believe in promoting international trade and investment, lowering tariffs, lowering taxes, and working through what we might call traditional means of creating free trade agreements as a method of trading and investing and working with our partners. So it is indeed a challenging time. But here in California, we are kind of working almost at what you might call sub-national commercial diplomacy level, where we work very closely with the Consular Corps, our trading partners, and are kind of constantly reassuring them that we value them and value their impact to trade and investment in our state, and that it's a two-way street. So that's kind of where we are.
Susanne, so one thing that we both share, right, is this belief in a free trade agenda, as you said. Can you speak to a little bit about why that's important? You and I have worked on passing trade agreements around the world for the U.S. and obviously with California as the fourth biggest economy in the U.S. Tell us a little bit about why you still are standing by a free trade agenda.
I think it goes back as far as Adam Smith and the Wealth of Nations and the concept of laissez-faire and market and the market, what the market will bear, and letting kind of international trade and investment flow naturally, one would say. And that's our goal in California, certainly among our members. We're finding that to be very true among our members, and recognize that we are in a new world in our trade philosophy and politics. But I go back to Condoleezza Rice, who's one of my favorites, who has stated that globalization is no longer a policy; it is simply a fact. And I think that's where we are, and I think we'll continue to be that. And along the way, you have ups and downs, and that's where we are.
So one of the things we at the Health and Fitness Association right now are grappling with is, especially on trade, is are the 232 exemptions, and right, and how is everyone making an argument about what is national security or what is not? And
right,
and our feeling is we have things on this list that are like weights, dumbbells, treadmills, things that we don't really believe are impacting national security. We think the national security of our health and fitness is a different association. But how are you all at the California Chamber dealing with these 232s?
Well, the exemptions are an interesting process, and we push them along. I think the big issue becomes what happens on November 5th when the Supreme Court hears the overall topic of IEPA, the International Economic Emergency Powers Act, whereby whether the administration is allowed to do a lot of these tariffs, and then where they go from there. Do they go to other, as you say, other methods of pushing tariffs, or do they, potentially say maybe we should back off from this altogether and look at different avenues to work with our trading partners? And of course, we don't know that. Our governor in California, who is also on the forefront of the news, has made an interesting pitch to our trading partners saying, when you do go through, and there hasn't been a lot of retaliation, but when you do go through and look at this in the future, would you just exempt California as a whole? Which is kind of an interesting bargaining technique.
Why not?
Why not, right? I mean, everybody wants California wine, so
Yeah.
and almonds. So just leave us alone, please. I don't know that that'll work in the long run, but we always go back to, but we're the fourth largest economy in the world, so please give us a chance. So we'll see. Yes,
I know, and we will see, right? I think you're right. November 5th is going to say a lot about what happens in the future. So Susanne, you and I have been in the trenches on trade and again, these trade agreements and all the stuff that we've done. But maybe can you step back a little bit for our listeners who maybe don't understand necessarily what the Chamber of Commerce does and what specifically the California Chamber is working on? Sure, absolutely. We are the premier business organization in California, established in 1890. We have members from across the state and across the board in all the industries that I had mentioned before. We work closely with our local chambers of commerce, and we work with a number of trade associations as well. And our mission is simply to make California a better place to live, work, and do business. We really feel that kind of holistically and altruistically that we're here not just for the benefit of our businesses, but for California as a whole. That is will result in a better outcome. Of course, we're about job creation, about economic development. We feel that drives our state, creates the jobs, and pays taxes, which is obviously necessary to make the whole circle go around. But it's a great organization, and we're probably one of the largest chambers in the country, and work both domestically and internationally. So Susanne, we here at HFA obviously have a mission to promote physical well-being, activity, movement, mental health, and why that is so important. And from your perspective, how do you think that mission maybe aligns with the broader economic and workforce goals of the chamber? Well, good question, and certainly relevant in I think in today's world. And I actually will go back to our mission of making California a better place to live, work, and do business. And we have at the California Chamber about 20 policy committees. One of them is on education, and one of them is on workplace safety. And so those are topics that obviously tie into your goals and what you're talking about. We also have historically had all three presidents or chancellors of the higher institutions, the public higher institutions in California on our board. So that is the University of California, which you obviously know, UC Berkeley, UCLA. We have a state college system, and then we have a junior college system, the community college system with 116 community colleges around the state.
And those are those are the institutions with whom we work very closely on workforce development. And so working on the subject area of education and workforce development is obviously a large issue area. One of the issues that we are really promoting at the California Chamber of Commerce this year is affordability. And affordability is, in California, being one of the more expensive states, a key issue. It's a key issue for the business community, but it's also a key issue on an individual level. Certainly the housing market, and those types of issues, I think, are what weigh into an individual's well-being, and perhaps their mental health, as to how life is going. Interestingly enough, I know you're in a new studio. We've actually just built a new studio. We've gone through a remodel at our office where we have taken our 100 employees for 6 months, moved out, moved back in, and we're now in a new office situation where we were very careful to work with light and glass, and we have wellness rooms, we have massage chair available, we have bubbly water with different flavors. I mean, we have an incredible amount of things, including our wonderful HR director who brings in fresh flowers every week. So I think that the business community is hopefully becoming more and more aware, both on a policy level and a human level, as to how important health and fitness, and probably in particular, how mental health is so important today, and obviously key in having a healthy workforce and a productive society.
I love it. I love that approach. I share it with you. I literally am looking into getting a bubbly water situation in our office, and we have great light. And so it's so important, right? What's the environment that people want to come to, right? And I think that part of it is, and then how do we enable activity for us throughout the day? So many of us are on these Zooms all day long, and that's important. It's an important sort of way to communicate. But I love that the chamber is thinking about that, and by no surprise, of course, you are. But I'm going to make a plea. You've got 20 committees. I think your 21st committee needs to be an activity and movement committee or something. We can work with you on it. I would think that would be fabulous.
Good point. Good point. Well, I will say that we do have at the chamber, separate from our advocacy role and our policy role, which is obviously so important, and in particular important in California. We can talk about that later, but we also have what's called a compliance area, because you're familiar. You work in Washington. The regulatory aspect of all of this is so important. And working in California is not an easy task. I mean, we are a complex society. We have a lot of regulations, and it's very difficult for especially small and medium-sized businesses. And I think of your gyms and spas, et cetera, to comply with California law, especially California labor law. We have very strong unions. We have a very progressive legislature, and our organization is kind of all about trying to find a happy medium and a balance in the midst of all of these policy issues. So we also have, in addition to our advocacy, and of course the policy is so important, but we also have a unit that really focuses on compliance. Because especially for small and medium-sized businesses, and it can be a gym or a spa or whatever, just trying to do their business, or a manufacturer trying to make their product, it can be very difficult to understand all of the complexities of how to comply in California law. We actually have 300 different products that address this in California. We have a labor law digest, which is literally this thick, that we put out every single year. And it includes everything from meal and rest periods to, we have an 8-hour work day in California, whereas most states have a 40-hour work week. I mean, it goes on and on on the complexities, as I say, and that is part of our effort, is to make it easier and smoother for the businesses to be able to simply go about doing their business.
Okay, Suzanne, you talk about your labor digest that the chamber puts out every year that I imagine is so important to so many businesses in the state. So what is the chamber doing specifically on helping maybe build a talent pipeline, job creation, training across all sectors to bring people into the workforce?
Well, good question. And we are just at the end of our legislative year and beginning to look at what kind of proposals legislatively we can look at for the new year. But we certainly are always active in laying the foundation for workforce development, making sure that we, in particular, interact with the community colleges on job fairs, on training modules with businesses, making sure that the Cal grants and the financial support is there for students. And, it's a subject that I am not the spokesperson for on the California Chamber of Commerce, but it's probably difficult to have a conversation today without mentioning AI, and how that will intersect with workforce development in the future, and the workforce in the future. And our position on a very general level is that we certainly support the development of AI with guardrails. I mean, that's the simplistic approach. And that will obviously alter the workforce for the future, and is something that is very important that all associations, yours, ours, are engaged in the future.
So you said something really important there, and it was about community colleges and job fairs. And I
Right.
just want to double down on that, especially for our industry,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is often looking for personal trainers, even front desk workers, group exercise instructors. What a tremendous opportunity to be participating in those things, right? And I think companies like gyms and fitness centers can do that through the chamber directly, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us a little bit though about some of maybe the upcoming legislative efforts that the Cal Chamber is monitoring that maybe specifically might impact health and fitness in our industry.
Sure. If I can go back to the compliance part of our organization, we have literally checklists and programs to assist small and medium-sized businesses on creating a health and safety plan for your organization or your business, for developing premium standards for the workplace. And it goes into details such as drug and alcohol policies, heat illness policies. I mean, heat illness, we in California, we are the Golden State and we have lots of sunshine. But, if you're an agricultural worker, that's an issue. So we have information about how to deal with Cal OSHA, occupational safety and health issues. And then one, which is very unfortunate but very realistic, is that here in California, we have since last year mandatory workplace violence training. And so we have actually put together a very comprehensive video and education module that fulfills that need, both legislatively, but certainly I would say also societally, where businesses, small businesses, could be a spa, could be a gym, needs to know more about workplace violence and how to deal with that. And a very, very sad subject, and one that impacts, obviously goes back to your subject of importance of mental health, but also from the business perspective of protection of our employees.
It truly, it's a sad reality, but I mean, that's the best way to say it. And nobody can be ready for it, but you can train and you can have workplace violence and education with your employees and do the best we can, right? It's an awful, awful situation.
Right. It is.
Suzanne, talk about what kind of advice maybe you have for health clubs, studios, spas that are looking to have a stronger voice in public policy. Do you have things that you think they should be doing, especially in Sacramento, Washington, D.C.? What would you tell a business owner to get more involved?
Well, for starters, to do just that, to get involved, to look at legislation or regulations being proposed, and to make the contact to a legislator or to a regulator if there's something that is not makes sense for your business. And obviously, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, large ones can do that through associations such as yours and ours. Absolutely. Here in California, we are, once again, we say it, I don't know how many times a day, the fourth largest economy in the world. But that what happens with that is that the legislation and the regulation that's crafted in California is watched literally by the entire world. And so, and what starts in California oftentimes will then, kind of flow into other legislative dealings, processes, other states, even into other countries. You travel internationally, and I have to say that when one does travel internationally, and people ask in Europe, where are you from? If you say the United States, you get one reaction. If you say you're from California, you get a different reaction.
Yeah.
And so the legislation that's crafted, in particular in California, is can be very innovative and can set a trend. And so I absolutely would encourage your members to be involved, whether it be Sacramento or whether it be Washington, D.C., because these rules and regulations can impact your daily life. No doubt about it.
Yes, right. And you know this better than anybody, relationships matter, right? Yes. When the times are tough, or when there's something on the line or something, if you have a relationship with your legislator, it can make or break what you're trying to do, right? I mean, it sounds so simple, but is so real.
So true.
Yep. Suzanne, what do you think, in closing here, are maybe some of the biggest opportunities that we at the Health and Fitness Association could be doing with the California Chamber to collaborate and continue to sort of share our voice and our mission together moving forward?
Well, as you know, Liz, from being in Washington, D.C. and all your professional work throughout the years, working together, building coalitions. It sounds like something we say all the time, but it has such an impact to work together. We have members from across the state of California. We bring them together because in the end, a policy issue which impacts one business, whether it impacts a spa or a gym, health fitness center, it is usually an issue that impacts any small or medium size or even large size business. So if you look at it that way, it is an opportunity for the business community to come closer together, to work together on legislation and regulatory affairs for the betterment of certainly our members, but also individuals and employees in our jurisdiction and among our membership.
Yes. Well, listen, Suzanne, thank you so much. Thank you for, first of all, being a friend, and thank you for all of your hard work, especially in the international trade environment, which I think it's fair to say is just crazy right now. And you're working hard. You're at the forefront of it all. We've been in the trenches together, and it's just so great to see you on this side. Thank you so much, Suzanne, and I can't wait to get out to Sacramento and see you soon.
Thank you, Liz. I appreciate it. Fun to see you and be with you. And I admire the work that you're doing in Washington, D.C. And I think that Health and Fitness Association has a wonderful goal of keeping us all healthy, fit, both physically and mentally. It's so important to us individually, as a society, and as the business community. So thank you, Liz.
Yes. Okay, we will talk to you soon. Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Matrix is
Well
proud to be
done.
the exclusive
great.
sponsor
Thanks,
of Shorts with
Suzanne.
Liz Clark. With over 20 years as a dedicated supporter of the fitness industry, we're thrilled to continue a partnership geared towards success for all those who believe in better.